The stars were calm that night, or at least as calm as they ever were in a galaxy filled with wars, pirates, and shifting alliances. Fleets moved from one system to another. Empires rose and fell, but there was one ship whose name seemed to echo everywhere: Eidolon Mercy, a human hospital ship. It was not the largest ship in the galaxy, nor the most beautiful. In fact, compared to the silver designs of the Caltheri cruisers or the living ships of the Sarah, the Eidolon Mercy looked plain. A long white hull with wide medical bays and large red markings that glowed in the dark of space. To some eyes it seemed vulnerable, almost begging to be attacked. But among those who knew, it carried a reputation more fearsome than a warship. The whispered warning was always the same: never attack a Deathworlder hospital ship. The meaning of Deathworlder, for most alien species, the word Deathworlder was enough to send a shiver down their spines. It was a classification given by galactic scientists for worlds where the environment was so hostile that most life could not survive. Toxic air, dangerous predators, unstable weather, and constant natural disasters. And Earth, home of humanity, was considered one of the worst of them. Other species could not believe how humans survived there at all. Acid rains, storms that could sweep across continents, beasts with teeth sharper than steel, and diseases that would kill a non-human within minutes. Yet humans not only survived, they thrived. They built cities, invented machines, and even left their deadly world to travel among the stars. That was why humans were called Deathworlders. And if their soldiers were frightening, their doctors were something else entirely. The reputation of the Eidolon Mercy. The Eidolon Mercy was not just a hospital ship. It was a moving symbol of humanity's strange morality. Wherever there was war, wherever fleets clashed and left survivors floating in the void, the Eidolon Mercy would arrive. Its crew of human doctors, nurses, and medics did not care which side the wounded belonged to. Soldier or civilian, friend or enemy, it made no difference. Every life was treated with the same care. Patients often woke up to find themselves lying next to someone they had once sworn to kill, both of them being treated by the same human nurse. This confused many aliens. Why save an enemy? They would ask. To humans, the answer was always the same: because they are alive. But while the ship carried no heavy weapons, and its mission was peaceful, stories about it spread like wildfire. Stories of pirates who tried to raid it only to vanish. Stories of soldiers who woke up on board and swore they had seen nurses working with broken arms, refusing to rest until every patient was stable. Stories of how the Eidolon Mercy never abandoned anyone, no matter the danger. Rumors in the galactic taverns and the smoky taverns of the space stations. Pilots and mercenaries argued about the truth of these tales. I heard, one scaled merchant hissed, that a human medic once carried a wounded warrior 3 decks through a burning ship, with fire melting the walls around him. And when asked why he did it, he said, because no one else could. Nonsense, a tall insectoid chittered. Humans exaggerate everything. They want us to believe they are special. But then a quiet, older trader leaned forward, lowering his voice. You fools do not understand. My cousin was a soldier in the Velran fleet. Their ship was destroyed and he was left adrift. The Eidolon Mercy picked him up. He told me that when the raiders came, the humans fought without weapons. They used stretchers, needles, even their bare hands. My cousin said it was the most terrifying sight of his life. The room went silent. Even the insectoid, who moments before had laughed, did not speak again. The warning hung in the air like smoke. Never attack a Deathworlder hospital ship. The crew of the Eidolon Mercy, inside the ship itself. Life was never easy. Captain Dr. Helena Marrow stood in the command center watching the endless stars drift by. She was not a soldier. Once she had been a surgeon on Earth, stitching together broken bodies after disasters and accidents. But the galaxy needed more than just local doctors. Humanity had sent her and many others to bring their knowledge to the stars. Around her, the crew worked quietly but with steady purpose. Engineers maintained the life support systems that kept thousands alive. Nurses checked over alien patients, learning how to read vital signs that were completely different from human norms. Translators walked the halls, making sure no patient felt alone in their fear. Dr. Marrow knew the dangers. The ship had no cannons, no fighters. Only defense drones to shield its fragile hull. If raiders attacked, the Eidolon Mercy could only run or rely on its crew's creativity. But she also knew the truth. Humans were at their strongest when they had something or someone to protect. The growing temptation. While the Eidolon Mercy was respected by many, not all looked at it with awe. Some looked at it with greed. In the dark corners of the galaxy, pirate coalitions whispered plans. They saw the hospital ship not as sacred but as weak, a ship filled with medical supplies, advanced technology, and patients who could be ransomed. They laughed at the stories of human medics. How could doctors and nurses stand against trained raiders? Among these groups, the Krelek raiders were the most ambitious. Their leader, Varnak, a scarred and ruthless alien, believed the ship was nothing more than a prize waiting to be taken. "They are healers," he sneered. "Not fighters. Once we take their supplies, we will be rich," his followers cheered. None of them noticed the silence that followed. None of them saw the looks of unease among the older raiders, who had heard the warnings before, the calm before the storm back on the Eidolon Mercy. Life went on. In the medical bays, a Ysera child lay sleeping, her breathing shallow but steady. A human nurse sat at her side, holding a small glowing toy to calm her dreams. In another wing, a wounded Velran soldier opened his eyes and found a human doctor gently adjusting his bandages, speaking to him in broken Velran words to reassure him. To the crew, this was ordinary life, healing, comforting, and protecting. They did not know that somewhere in the dark of space, ships were already moving toward them. The galaxy was about to witness again why the words carried weight, why the warnings were whispered in every port. Never attack a Deathworlder hospital ship. The dark of space stretched endlessly, a canvas of stars broken only by the steady glow of engines. The Eidolon Mercy moved with calm purpose, her course set toward the war-torn systems of the Varen front. Inside, the medical bays were filled with patients, soldiers and civilians alike, recovering under the care of the human crew. To the medics, it was another day of saving lives. To others, it was an opportunity. The Krelek raiders' decision far away in the shadow of an asteroid belt. The Krelek raiders waited. Their fleet of 6 ships circled in silence, patched together from old war vessels and scavenged freighters. Their leader, Varnak, stood at the viewing window of his flagship, the Bloodfang. His eyes glowed a dull orange as he studied the data feed showing the path of the Eidolon Mercy. "There she is," Varnak growled, his voice rough from years of command. The human's precious hospital ship. His lieutenants gathered around him, eager and restless. Some licked their lips, imagining the wealth they would gain. Others, older and wiser, shifted uncomfortably. "It carries no weapons," said Rek, one of Varnak's advisors. "Only drones and shields. Its cargo is medicine, technology, and helpless patients. A prize without risk." Varnak smiled, revealing sharp teeth. "Exactly. The galaxy calls these humans Deathworlders, but they are doctors, not warriors. We strike fast, we take what we want, and we vanish. The rest of the galaxy will laugh at their weakness." But at the back of the room, one grizzled raider dared to speak. "Captain, I have heard tales. They say to harm such a ship is to invite death itself. The humans protect it with a madness that even soldiers fear." The room fell silent. Varnak glared at the speaker, then barked out a laugh. "Old ghost stories. Do you tremble at nurses and surgeons? Enough, ready the fleet. We will show the galaxy how empty these warnings truly are." The order was given. The Krelek raiders moved to intercept. The Eidolon Mercy detects trouble. On the bridge of the Eidolon Mercy, Captain Dr. Helena Marrow studied the latest reports. Her medical staff worked tirelessly, but her duty as captain required her eyes on the stars as well. A sensor alarm chimed. Ensign Alvarez, the young officer at the console, frowned. "Captain." Multiple contacts, closing fast. "No ID beacons," Dr. Marrow's jaw tightened. "Pirates, raise shields," she ordered calmly. "Signal all medical wards, prepare for emergency lockdown." The crew moved quickly. They had drilled for this countless times. While they had no heavy weapons, they had built defenses of another kind. Sealed compartments, reinforced bulkheads, automated lockdowns to keep patients safe. "Can we outrun them?" asked Alvarez. The navigation officer shook his head. "Not at this range. They will be on us in minutes." Dr. Marrow exhaled slowly. The oath of her ship was clear. No life would be abandoned, no matter the risk. They could not jump to safety while evacuation was in progress. The wounded still needed them. "Then we stand," she said firmly. "The pirates make contact." The Bloodfang hailed them first. The rough voice of Varnak filled the bridge speakers. "Human ship, cut your engines. You are surrounded. Surrender your cargo and we may let you live." Dr. Marrow pressed the comms control. Her voice was calm, steady, and unshaken. "This is a medical vessel. We carry only the wounded and the sick. We are neutral under galactic law. We will not surrender our patients." Laughter echoed through the comm. "Neutral? You are prey. Lower your shields or be destroyed." Marrow's gaze swept her crew. None wavered. "They had all known this day might come," she replied, her tone sharp as steel. "This ship heals all who come aboard. Attack us and you will make enemies you cannot imagine." Varnak cut the channel with a snarl. The pirates moved in. "The boarding begins." The first volley of pirate fire struck the shields, rocking the Eidolon Mercy. Emergency lights flickered, but the shields held. The ship did not fight back. It had no weapons to do so. Instead, Dr. Marrow gave the command. "Lock down the bays. Secure all patients. Prepare countermeasures." The raiders launched boarding craft. Metal claws dug into the hospital ship's hull, cutting through to force entry. On Deck 12, alarms blared as bulkheads slammed shut. Human medics pulled patients onto stretchers, moving them deeper into secure zones. Children cried, soldiers groaned, but the nurses' voices were calm, steadying. In the corridor, the first pirates forced their way in, armored, armed, expecting little resistance. What they met was not soldiers, but humans in medical uniforms. Waiting for them, the unexpected resistance nurse Patel stood at the front of the corridor, a stun rod in hand. Behind him, orderlies carried shields made from reinforced stretchers. The pirates laughed. "Doctors with sticks? This will be quick." But the humans were not afraid. They had trained in emergencies all their lives. They knew chaos, fire, and blood. They moved with coordination born not of battle, but of saving lives in impossible conditions. As the raiders charged, Patel activated the stun rod, dropping the first pirate in a single strike. Stretchers slammed forward, blocking blaster fire. A human engineer triggered a gas release, harmless to patients but disorienting to the attackers. The corridor became a trap. Pirates stumbled, blinded, while nurses and engineers struck with precise, controlled force. The humans did not fight to kill, they fought to protect, and that made them relentless. In the medical bays, meanwhile, Dr. Lena Jo, one of the senior surgeons, continued an operation as the ship shook from impacts. Her patient was a Velran soldier, once an enemy, now under her care. "Doctor, pirates are on this deck," a nurse warned. Dr. Jo did not look up. "Then lock the doors and hold them. This patient's heart will not wait." The team obeyed, sealing the bay. The pirates who tried to force entry found themselves facing humans who defended the operating room as if it were a fortress. They fought with surgical tools, portable shields, even IV poles. Not one patient was left unguarded. The first defeat on the Bloodfang, Varnak roared in anger. Reports came in of boarding parties being trapped, disarmed, or driven back. "How can this be?" he demanded. "They are doctors." But his lieutenants looked uneasy. "Captain, these humans fight like no soldiers we have faced. They are defending with madness. It is as if every patient is their own kin," Varnak snarled. "Send more! Crush them!" More raiders launched. More met the same fate. The Eidolon Mercy bled, her hull scarred, her corridors filled with smoke, but she did not fall. Every deck became a maze of barriers, every room a shield for the helpless, and at the center, Dr. Marrow stood firm. Her voice carried through the comms to every crew member. "Remember who we are. We heal, we protect. No one touches our patients." The warning ignored, by the end of the first assault, the Krelak raiders had lost dozens of fighters. Their pride was wounded as deeply as their forces. Still, Varnak refused to retreat. "They are weak," he insisted. "They cannot hold forever." But in the silence of his bridge, one of his oldest raiders whispered what the galaxy already knew. "Captain, we have made the first mistake. They told us never to attack a Deathworlder hospital ship. The battle had only begun, but already the Krelak raiders were learning the truth behind the warning." The corridors of the Eidolon Mercy were alive with activity. The air smelled faintly of antiseptic and metal, but beneath that was the unmistakable tension of a ship under threat. Outside, the Krelak raiders prowled the hull like wolves circling their prey. Inside, humans moved with precision, calm determination, and a quiet ferocity that made even seasoned soldiers uneasy. For the medics, this was not a battlefield. It was a place of life and protection, But for anyone who dared attack, it had become a maze of danger. Boarding parties faced resistance. The Krellick boarding teams were relentless. They had believed the humans would panic, that their patients would cry, and that the corridors would be easy to storm. They were wrong. In the main hallway, Nurse Patel and his squad waited. Their weapons were not designed for killing: stun rods, reinforced stretchers, emergency netting, but they used every tool at their disposal with deadly precision. As the first pirate swung a blaster, Patel slid forward with a stretcher, knocking the raider off balance. Another pirate lunged, but a human engineer grabbed a pole, twisting it to disarm the attacker. Panic and chaos spread among the invaders, but the humans did not falter. They moved as one, shielding patients and guiding them to safety while simultaneously neutralizing threats. The maze of the ship, the Eidolon Mercy's design, built for efficiency and emergency response, now worked in their favor. Corridors were narrow, bulkheads could be locked remotely, and access to medical bays could be restricted instantly. Pirates found themselves trapped in loops, running into rooms where humans had set up defensive positions. Smoke screens, improvised barriers, and tripped alarms disoriented them. One raider shouted into his communicator, frustration evident in his voice. Where are they coming from? Every corridor is a trap. Varnak, aboard the Bloodfang, heard the report and slammed his fist against the console. Press forward. They cannot hold forever. But each attempt to storm the ship only led to more chaos for the raiders. Patients who refused to be helpless in the medical bays. The wounded were not entirely passive. The Velran soldier, once an enemy of humanity, had begun to understand the situation. Though his body was weak, his mind was sharp. "Doctor," he rasped, pointing to a corridor where raiders approached. "I can help. Give me a weapon, or something I can use." Dr. Lena Joe handed him a sturdy surgical clamp, and he nodded. Though it was far from a weapon, he used it with determination to help block the doorway and hold back the pirates long enough for the nurses to move patients to safety. Even the children on board, under the care of human nurses, sensed the danger. Their cries were muffled with comfort, their small hands clutching glowing toys that doubled as lights to guide the medics. The human crew worked not only to save lives, they inspired courage in those around them. Every patient who could move lent a hand, creating a united front of survival. The raiders' shocked Varnak could not understand it. Reports came in: boarding parties trapped, ships disabled by nothing more than nets, poles, and stun rods. The humans were fighting, yes, but not with the savagery of trained soldiers. They were defending the helpless. "Why do they fight so hard for the weak?" one lieutenant asked. "They could flee, they could surrender. Why risk everything?" Varnak growled. "They are Deathworlders. There is something in them we cannot understand. Press forward." Yet in the back of his mind, even he felt a flicker of fear. The stories had been warnings, and now they were proving true. Improvised defenses in engineering, Chief Technician Ramius oversaw the creation of barriers. Ducts were rerouted to release smoke and harmless but disorienting gas. Sliding doors were rigged to slam automatically if intruders passed. Even ordinary carts and beds were converted into barricades and traps. "This ship is alive," one engineer muttered, watching as a pirate fell into a secured medical bay that had been transformed into a cage. The raider struggled against the doors. But the humans had already moved the patients to a safer section. It was a delicate balance, protecting the wounded while turning their attackers' strength against them. Every action was precise, careful, and purposeful. A human surgeon's resolve in a small surgical wing, Dr. Zhou continued working on the Velran soldier. His wounds were severe, and the shaking of the ship made every incision difficult. One of the raiders tried to break into the bay, expecting easy plunder. He froze. Dr. Zhou did not even look up from her work. "Step back," she said, voice steady. "This patient's life is more important than your greed." The pirate sneered, raising his weapon, but another medic activated a bulkhead lockdown. The raider found himself trapped, staring at a human who refused to be intimidated. It was not just skill, it was something deeper. A human belief that life was worth protecting at any cost. Alliance in crisis. As the battle continued, the Velran soldier began to assist more actively. His presence emboldened others who were once enemies. Small acts, helping carry supplies, blocking doorways, guiding medics, began to form an unlikely alliance of humans and aliens under threat. "This is remarkable," whispered a young technician. "They are not just defending themselves. They are defending everyone. Dr. Marrow, standing in the central command hub, nodded. That is what it means to be human. To protect even when danger is certain. To fight not for glory, but for life itself. The medics on board began to see the pattern. Fear was a weapon, yes, but courage and unity could be stronger. And the ship itself became a living testament to that strength. The raiders' frustration. The Krellic boarding parties were faltering. Their numbers were reduced, their morale shattered. They had expected easy victory and found instead chaos, resistance, and frustration at every turn. On the Bloodfang, Varnak slammed his claws against the table. Enough, send everything we have. Destroy them. But his crew hesitated. Older raiders shook their heads. Captain, the warnings. We did not listen. This is what they meant. This is the first mistake. Varnak's anger boiled, but even he felt it, a creeping realization that humans were unlike anything they had faced before. The human edge. The humans were not trained for war, but their training for emergencies, disasters, and life-or-death medical situations gave them an edge that soldiers could not anticipate. They used the ship's layout, patient knowledge, and improvisation to outmaneuver the attackers. Every hallway was a trap. Every medbay a fortress. Every nurse and doctor a force to be reckoned with, not because they wanted to fight, but because they refused to allow harm to come to those in their care. The Krellic raiders began to retreat in disarray, realizing that raw strength and weapons could not overcome human ingenuity and courage. The lesson begins. By the end of the engagement, the first wave of raiders was either trapped, stunned, or fleeing. The Eidolon Mercy was scratched and dented, some sections smoky and damaged, but every patient remained safe. Dr. Marrow surveyed the bridge. We did not fight to kill, she said softly. We fought to protect.
That is the difference.
That is why they fear us. Outside, the stars continued to shine, indifferent to the battle. But among the surviving pirates, a new legend began to take root, a lesson that would echo across the galaxy. Never attack a Deathworlder hospital ship. The first mistake had been made, and it would not be the last. For those who underestimated humanity would soon learn that courage, ingenuity, and the will to protect the helpless were more powerful than any weapon. The Eidolon Mercy glided through the dark expanse of space, its hull battered, its corridors scarred by the first wave of Krellic attacks. But inside, life continued. Medics moved tirelessly, checking patients, performing surgeries, and ensuring that every life under their care remained safe. Outside, however, the Krellic raiders were regrouping. Varnak had called for reinforcements. 12 more ships emerged from the darkness, weapons bristling, ready to crush the human vessel. The calm before the storm captain, Dr. Helena Marrow stood on the bridge, her hands folded calmly behind her back. She studied the approaching fleet, her mind already calculating every possibility. Captain, Ensign Alvarez said nervously, 12 more ships. Their firepower could destroy us in minutes. Dr. Marrow nodded. They are powerful, she said softly. But we are not defenseless. Every life on this ship is precious. We will protect them. That is all that matters. Her words were steady, but the tension in the bridge was palpable. Engineers worked quickly, rerouting power to strengthen shields around the most critical areas. Nurses and medics prepared emergency evacuation procedures in case the worst happened. In the medical bays, patients were secured. Children clutched glowing toys, adults held hands, and even the Velran soldier who had aided them earlier whispered prayers under his breath. The first salvo, the Krellic fleet opened fire. Bright beams of energy slammed against the shields, rocking the Eidolon Mercy. Warning lights flashed, and bulkheads shuddered under the impact. Shields holding, the engineer reported, though his voice was tight with strain. But we cannot withstand sustained fire at this level. Dr. Marrow's gaze swept the bridge. Then we do not wait. Prepare countermeasures and protect the patients. Evacuate the non-essential sections if needed. Every life counts. Alarms blared and emergency lighting bathed the bridge in red. Smoke filled parts of the corridors as minor hull breaches forced medics to work around danger. Yet no one panicked. Every crew member knew what they must do. Human ingenuity. The ship was small and its weapons were few. Yet humans had learned to improvise. Engineers diverted power from non-essential sections to reinforce the shields around the medical bays. Doors were automated to slam shut if pirates approached. Even the air circulation system was rigged to release clouds of disorienting, non-lethal gas into the corridors. In one hallway, a group of raiders tried to force entry. They were met not with gunfire but with a series of mechanical traps. Metal barriers dropped from the ceiling, nets ensnared their legs, and medics with stun rods appeared from hidden alcoves. One by one, the invaders fell back, bewildered by the unexpected resistance. "This is madness," one pirate shouted. "How can mere doctors and nurses stop us?" A human engineer smiled grimly. "Because we are not mere doctors. We are humans. And humans protect life even when it is easier to run. Protecting the helpless." Meanwhile, in the central medical bay, Dr. Lena Jo performed surgery on the Velrun soldier. The ship shuddered from enemy fire and alarms rang constantly. Yet she worked with precision, her hands steady despite the chaos around her. Beside her, Nurse Patel organized the patients, moving them to safer sections as the shields absorbed the attacks. Children were calmed with soft words and glowing toys. Soldiers reassured with firm hands and encouragement. Even the wounded who could move helped carry stretchers, block doors, or guide medics. In this moment, the Eidolon Mercy was not just a ship, it was a fortress built of courage, ingenuity, and determination. The raiders' frustration, Varnak's fury, grew as reports came in. Boarding parties were trapped, reinforcements disoriented, and the human crew continued to thwart every attempt to breach critical areas. "Captain, they are still holding the medical bays," one lieutenant reported. "We have killed more than half their boarding teams, yet they do not break." "How is this possible?" Varnak slammed his clawed hand against the console. "They are only humans. Destroy them!" But even he felt unease. The stories, the warnings, the legends, they were all proving true. Humans born of a death world did not fight like others. They fought with resilience, creativity, and an unshakable will to protect life. A desperate maneuver, as the raiders intensified their assault, Dr. Marrow made a bold decision. The ship's energy was limited, and sustaining the shields on all decks was impossible. She ordered power diverted from non-essential sections, even life support in unused areas, to reinforce the critical medical bays. "Every patient matters," she told the engineers. "Do what you must to save them." The engineers nodded, understanding the risk. Some systems failed under the strain, but the most important areas, the operating rooms, the pediatric bays, and the wards holding the gravely wounded, remained shielded. Courage in the face of danger down in the lower decks. Human medics and the Velrun soldier faced the approaching pirates. With little more than medical equipment and raw determination, they held their ground. One medic used a fire extinguisher to blind attackers temporarily, while another swung a reinforced stretcher to push them back. Every patient under their care became part of the defense. Even those too weak to fight cheered, guided others, or simply stood firm as the humans worked around them. The pirates began to see that they were not facing ordinary medics. They were facing humans whose courage and will made them unyielding. Every attack they launched was met with resistance. Every attempt to breach was countered, and every raid seemed to strengthen the humans' resolve. Allies on board the Velrun soldier, once an enemy, now became a symbol of the alliance forming aboard the Eidolon Mercy. He organized patients who could assist, showed them how to block doors, and carried supplies to medics under fire. "It is not just their courage," he whispered to a nurse. "It is their will to protect everyone, even those they do not know. This is remarkable." The medics continued their work, unaffected by the fire outside. Every life saved was a small victory. Every patient protected was a triumph against the attackers. The turning point, for the first time, the Krelak raiders began to falter. Their boarding parties were losing morale. Their weapons were ineffective against humans who refused to be beaten. Even the most aggressive raiders found themselves trapped, disoriented, and unable to move without encountering human resistance. On the Bloodfang, Varnak's face darkened with frustration. "Why won't they break? We have every advantage. Firepower, numbers, everything." An older lieutenant spoke cautiously. "Captain, the stories, the warning, perhaps it was true. Perhaps humans are not to be underestimated," Varnak growled, but deep down, he knew they had underestimated the humans. The first attack had failed, and the cost of underestimating humanity was already clear. The ship holds, the Eidolon Mercy was scratched, dented and smoke-filled in some areas, but it had held. No patient had been lost, no medical operation interrupted for more than a moment. Every crew member, human and allied, had fought with ingenuity and courage to ensure the lives under their care remained safe. Dr. Marrow surveyed the bridge, exhausted but resolute. "This is what we do," she said quietly. "We protect life. That is our strength. That is why they fear us. That is why they will never forget today." Outside, the stars continued to shine, indifferent to the battle. But within the Eidolon Mercy, the human crew had proven that courage, ingenuity, and a relentless will to protect the helpless were weapons more powerful than any cannon or missile. The lesson becomes clear. As the Krellick ships retreated temporarily to regroup, the legend of the Eidolon Mercy grew. Stories of human doctors holding off an entire boarding party, of medics improvising defenses under fire, and of patients who had once been enemies helping one another spread quickly. In galactic taverns, in space stations, and even among other fleets, the warning grew louder. Never attack a Deathworlder hospital ship. The battle was not yet over. The Krellick raiders would return, stronger and more determined. But for now, the humans had held. They had protected every life aboard, and in doing so, had shown the galaxy exactly why Deathworlder medics were feared and respected. The cold void of space stretched endlessly around the battered hull of the Eidolon Mercy. The ship's shields flickered faintly under the strain of repeated impacts, and smoke curled from minor hull breaches. Inside, the crew moved with calm urgency, tending to the wounded, repairing critical systems, and reinforcing barricades. Outside, the Krellick raiders regrouped. Their pride had been wounded, and their losses were mounting. Yet their leader, Varnak, was determined to strike again. He had underestimated the humans once. He refused to make the same mistake twice. Preparing for the final assault, Captain, Dr. Helena Marrow stood on the bridge, her hands folded behind her back. Her eyes scanned the fleet that approached with deadly intent. "Captain," Ensign Alvarez said nervously, "they're coming at full strength. Their numbers are greater than before, and they have heavier weapons. This could be the end." Dr. Marrow's gaze was steady. "It is not about strength, Ensign. It is about protecting life. That is what we do. That is what makes us human." Around them, the crew worked tirelessly. Engineers rerouted power to reinforce shields and repair damaged sections. Medics prepared evacuation routes for patients while others checked emergency systems, ensuring that every precaution was taken. Even the Velran soldier who had been saved earlier helped, guiding patients and offering encouragement. The battle begins. Again, the Krellick fleet struck with renewed ferocity. Energy beams tore through space toward the Eidolon Mercy, striking shields with explosive force. Warning alarms rang through the ship, shaking corridors and rattling doors. "Shields are holding, but we cannot maintain this for long," shouted the chief engineer. Dr. Marrow gave her order calmly. "Then we make every second count. Protect the patients. Hold the line." The ship shuddered as the first boarding craft attached to the hull. The humans had no intention of surrendering. Every corridor, every medbay, and every bulkhead became a line of defense. Ingenious human tactics. The crew moved like a single organism. Smoke from emergency canisters filled narrow corridors, blinding the pirates. Bulkheads slammed shut behind them, creating mazes and trapping attackers. Medics wielded stun rods, poles, and improvised barriers to slow the intruders, while others guided patients to secure zones. In one section, a group of boarding pirates tried to break into the pediatric bay. They were met by a team of human nurses and medics who had transformed beds, IV poles, and carts into barriers. Children clutched soft toys, glowing lights guiding medics as they moved patients to safety. A pirate shouted, frustrated, "These are just doctors. How can they resist us?" A human medic answered calmly, "We are human. We protect life no matter the danger. That is stronger than any weapon you carry. Allies unite, even the wounded joined in the defense." The Velran soldier, healed and stronger now, helped block corridors, carry equipment, and guide medics. Other patients, inspired by the courage of the humans, assisted wherever they could. "This is remarkable," whispered one young nurse. "Even those we saved are helping defend the helpless." Dr. Marrow nodded. "That is the strength of life itself. Courage is contagious. Hope is powerful." Every action strengthened the human line. Every patient protected became a symbol of defiance, showing the attackers that the Eidolon Mercy was not merely a ship, It was a bastion of human will. The pirates began to falter. Varnak's frustration was growing. Reports came in that several boarding parties had been neutralized, trapped, or pushed back. Heavy weapons could not reach the medics effectively, as they moved swiftly and used the ship's layout to their advantage. "They cannot be defeated," one of his lieutenants muttered. "We have everything, but it is not enough." Varnak slammed his clawed hand against the control console. "Do not speak of defeat. Attack again! Crush them." Yet even he knew deep inside that the humans were not ordinary opponents. They fought with a purpose that could not be broken by fear, threats, or even overwhelming force. The turning point. The battle reached its peak. Dr. Marrow made another bold decision. Power was again rerouted, this time sacrificing some non-essential systems to reinforce shields and stabilize critical life support. Engineers worked frantically to implement the plan, repairing damaged systems under the strain of attack. Bulkheads were automatically sealed, corridors turned into traps, and medics continued their work without pause. The Krellic raiders found themselves caught in a perfect storm, a ship designed for healing, now defending life with creativity, courage, and human ingenuity. Every attempt to breach the Eidolon Mercy was met with calculated resistance, and every pirate who fell away spread the story of humans who fought to protect life. The cost of mercy. The ship bore scars from the battle. Hull panels were dented, corridors smoke-filled, and systems strained to their limits. Yet not a single patient was lost. Every life aboard had been preserved, every operation completed, every child and adult protected. Dr. Joe, still performing surgery in the operating bay, glanced up at the alarms and shaking walls. Her voice was calm. "Life cannot wait. Even under fire, we save those who need us." Her words echoed through the ship. Every medic, every patient, every ally understood the meaning. Mercy was not weakness. It was strength. And strength could defeat even the fiercest attackers. The pirate fleet retreats. For the first time, the Krellic raiders wavered. Boarding parties were depleted, ships were damaged, and their morale shattered. The human crew, defending not themselves but the helpless, had turned the tide. Varnak stared at the Eidolon Mercy's shields holding strong despite repeated assaults. He clenched his claws, anger and fear mixing. He realized the truth. Humans were not just survivors of a death world. They were protectors of life, fearless in ways that no conventional army could match. With a roar of frustration, he ordered a retreat. The Krellic ships pulled back, leaving the Eidolon Mercy battered but unbeaten. A legend is born. As the enemy withdrew, word of the battle spread quickly. Survivors of the Krellic boarding parties told tales of humans who defended every patient, of medics who created traps and barriers from nothing, and of children and soldiers alike who joined in the defense. In the Galactic Council chambers, diplomats and leaders spoke in hushed tones. "Never attack a Deathworlder hospital ship," they repeated, now not as rumor but as fact. The Eidolon Mercy had become more than a ship. It was a symbol. It represented human courage, ingenuity, and the unshakable will to protect the innocent. No force in the galaxy could ignore it. Humanity's strength recognized back on the bridge, Dr. Marrow surveyed her crew. Exhaustion lined their faces, but their eyes shone with quiet pride. They had faced impossible odds and emerged victorious, not through aggression but through protection, courage, and skill. "They will remember this," she said softly. "Not just the ship, not just the medics, but the lesson. Humans fight to protect life. That is our greatest weapon." Even the Velran soldier who had once been their enemy nodded. "I have never seen courage like this. Humans protect everyone, even those they do not know. I will carry this lesson for the rest of my life." The lesson echoes. Across the galaxy, the Krellic raiders' defeat became a story told across the galaxy. Space stations, freighters, and fleets carried the warning, "Never attack a Deathworlder hospital ship." It was not fear born from weapons, not terror from armies. It was respect and awe for humans who valued life above all else. Medics who would stand against overwhelming force to save the helpless were more powerful than any warship. The legend of the Eidolon Mercy grew, and humanity's reputation spread farther than ever before. Where once humans were known only as Deathworlders, now they were also known as the Guardians of Life, fearless, ingenious, and unstoppable when defending the innocent. A quiet victory, the ship floated among the stars, battered but intact. Inside, life continued. Patients slept, nurses tended wounds, and engineers repaired the damage. Captain Dr. Marrow walked the corridors, passing medics and patients alike. She smiled quietly. The galaxy had seen humanity at its best, not through war or conquest, but through courage, unity, and the unshakable will to protect life. Somewhere, Varnak and his fleet nursed their wounds, carrying the lesson with them. Never again would they underestimate a human hospital ship. Never again would they forget the strength that came from protecting life. And in the quiet of space, the Eidolon Mercy moved on, a white beacon among the stars carrying hope, healing, and the unbreakable human spirit.